On September 9th, I had the opportunity to tour Spaceport Cornwall. Now, a lot of you may not be aware of the fact that this spaceport is not only going to be serving Virgin Orbit, but also Sierra Space and their Dream Chaser spacecraft. And also, you may not be aware that they're going to be taking care of a lot of the satellite integration for these companies rather than just acting as a landing field for their various spacecraft. And that is a very, very big deal. This is a spaceport that's going places and has big ambitions. I'm handling my coverage of this spaceport in two parts. The first part happening a few weeks ago, as I said, and really everything kind of looks bare bones without a great deal of equipment in place. But I'm going to be going back on the 10th of October to actually watch satellites being integrated into Launcher 1, just to give you an impression of how much can be accomplished in a short amount of time. So let's get started right now. Guys, we're here at Spaceport Cornwall, and you're going to see that this is very much still a work in progress, very ambitious, everything that they're working on here, and I'm only vaguely familiar with it. With me is Mel Thorpe. Once again, your title, I'm sorry here.
I am the head of Spaceport Cornwall.
So yes, this is the lady in charge. Exciting stuff. So in any event, can you tell us really quick what we're going to be looking at today? Just a brief overview.
Yes, you are one of the first people to come and see our completed clean room, which is where we're going to be integrating the satellites into the fairing of Launcher 1, Virgin Orbit's rocket. So we're about to go into that, gown up a bit, put our boots on, see the clean room, and then we'll see the rocket end as well as where the rocket's going to be.
Fantastic. I've never gowned up for a clean room before, so let's get to it. So under normal circumstances, we would have to put a complete gown on. However, we have limited time for that, so we can get by with boots apparently today. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah. There's no hardware in it at the moment, so we have one more big clean to go before Virgin show up with the hardware, so we're getting away with just wearing boots.
How many CubeSats?
How many do we have altogether? I think there's 9 altogether, 8 altogether actually. So there's a few different customers, but some of them have more than one.
Wow. Well, let's go have a look.
Gown room now, we're about to go into the airlock, which is where the human meets the satellite coming through with some other doors, and then we'll go into the clean room after that.
Fantastic. Off we go. Airlock time. So big empty space here, but are we still heading into, is this the airlock or are we heading into the airlock?
This is the airlock. So behind you here are the doors that the payload will come through. And obviously where we just went through, the humans will then come into here and buddy up with the payload. That door will shut. This door will open here so they can go on. Obviously, if the payload's already in there, then the people will just be coming through this way. So this is just the final area where we can make sure everything's really clean before we actually go into the clean room.
Fantastic. So what kind of equipment still needs to be added in here?
This room actually I think is pretty much bare bones, but we will be adding some of the workbenches, and most of the equipment that we need for the integration will actually be in the clean room itself. So this room stays pretty sterile.
Excellent. Let's move on then. Okay, this is a spacious area to say the least. Tell me what we're looking at here.
So this is our amazing clean room. We're actually looking up at our 2-ton crane, and that crane is incredible. It basically can move up and down, but that's what will hoist the fairing of the rocket vertically, which we're really excited about because original plans were we were just going to have to do it horizontally, but actually it's much more efficient to have the fairing horizontal. Or sorry, vertical. And this is where the fairing of Launcher 1 will be, somewhat open like a clamshell, where the satellites are then being put inside the fairing of the rocket. So each payload will come in separately and be integrated in sequence of how they've decided the tech spec will be on it. And that process will last for a few weeks, and starts, I think, in actually the beginning of October. So we're quite close to that starting to happen. This room will be full of obviously technicians, engineers, and the satellites themselves. So it will it will look very different, but we're really excited to have this asset here because it was something we never really planned to do. They can encapsulate the fairing over in Long Beach, they can do it anywhere else and ship it here. We really wanted to capture that activity here. So this is a huge milestone for us here in Cornwall to have something like this.
Yeah, obviously. So is it just the fairing coming into this room, or is it all of Launcher One?
Just the fairing parts of Launcher One might be sneaking through that door over there. But yeah, it will just be the fairing of the rocket.
Well, that's fantastic to see that. Yeah, all the integration happens here. Obviously, a great deal. So the technicians and such, the people who are involved in the integration, are most of these the actual satellite providers themselves, rather than folks from America.
We have a little bit of both, so there will be obviously the Virgin rocket team in here, but we also all the payload companies will have their technicians in here too. So it'll be both.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, it's exciting to see that so much expertise will be involved here locally in the United Kingdom, which is, I'm pretty sure, what you're trying to accomplish here.
Oh, 100%. And again, capturing that kind of activity here in Cornwall, especially, is huge because when Virgin are not here, we have this asset to use for other satellite companies, other technologies that are already looking at how they could use this amazing asset of the crane and this clean room, as well. So it will be a busy facility even when Virgin are not here.
So, can you give me an example then of other? Have you sealed some agreements with other organizations that are looking to integrate their payloads right here in this clean room?
Yeah, we've announced D-Orbit as one of them. We have a few others that we haven't announced yet. We've also announced obviously our MOU with Sierra Space and Dream Chaser. That's different, but what they do need is somewhere where they're using our runway and spaceport as a landing site. And on board, they'll have experiments or cargo or whatever they're bringing back from space. They'll need a clean room facility to process that in, so we can use that for that as well. So that's where we're trying to future proof as best we can this facility, and it's not just bespoke solely to Virgin.
Everything seems so, I don't know, so much smaller when we're talking about Launcher One. I mean, you're always talking 300 kilograms worth of payload. And so, why do you need 2 tons for 300 kilograms? Well, because obviously the fairing is much, much heavier than just, the payload itself. So, I mean, do you anticipate that you're going to have to lift close to that 2 ton capacity in the future?
Again, we've just tried to future proof as best we could. So any future, we don't imagine we'll ever do any heavy lift here, but bigger, small satellites or small satellite launchers, anyways, that we can maybe fit in here. So we tried to future proof as best we can, and I think there's the ability to add a heavier crane as well onto this frame. So behind us here next week will be a big mural, and it's actually a local artist here in Cornwall, and it's going to be an incredible art piece because it's going to take up this entire wall. And my whole thing about the floor color is a full reminder to the people that are going to be working in this room of the importance of what they're doing to us here on Earth. And that reminder to all of us about using space for good and for humanity and for the planet. So that image is just going to be very bold about that reminder. So we'll send you some pictures of it when it is up because I think it's going to just totally bring this whole room to life.
Fantastic. And that sounds familiar to what was happening over at Goon Hilly. They have a local artist well there as well. Is it the same person by any chance, or someone different?
Yes, somebody different, but the spirit of Goonhilly and what they've done down there is a huge, it's well, Ian himself is a role model for me, and the way he's approached things, and we really want to approach space in the same way, like a reminder that this is about planet Earth a lot of the time, and bringing creative people and artists into the space domain is so important for us to be able to tell the story in different ways.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. Ooh, into yet another cavernous room.
This is where I guess all the magic happens with the rocket. Once the payload's been integrated, it will come and be attached to the rest of the rocket here. And just out those big doors there is basically out to the apron, ready to be attached to Cosmic Girl.
You described the process then of bringing in Launcher One. I mean, obviously that's got to be, a bit of a process in itself. You have to make sure it doesn't get damaged, after the plane lands, etc. Can you guide us through that process?
Well, yeah, the rocket factory is over in Long Beach in California. At the moment, that's where all the rockets are manufactured. It will be the first time they've ever shipped one overseas. It's just gone up to Mojave for its wet dress in Mojave, at which point it will be loaded and come over here, land straight here at the airfield, and be brought in this facility. We'll be working on it for a few weeks before it goes to space.
So a few weeks. So when is it going to land? Do you think?
The launch.
The landing of the aircraft. When do you think Cosmic Girl will arrive?
We're looking at the end of September.
Wow, so soon, very soon. Yeah, this is definitely right on the horizon. Very excited. While we're in here, real quick, also for Sierra Space, I think it sounds like you've been having a lot of conversations. This is more than just let's have an emergency landing site for Dream Chaser, and I've seen Dream Chaser in detail at their facility in Colorado, and a lot of their ambitions, but they don't talk much about Europe aside from the fact that they'd love to do business here. Have more specifics been discussed with Sierra Space's ambitions in Europe and how they would integrate you guys into that?
Yeah, we've actually been speaking to CR Space for quite a while now, and several years, and they were very interested in obviously having us as a landing site, but actually how they build a cluster around what they need for when it lands. So again, similar to what we're doing with Virgin, we want to kind of capture the wider activity, so that the launch or the landing only becomes the cherry on top. So very early on, we talked to their BD team and said, well, what would you guys need in an ideal world if you landed with some payloads back from space? How would you process that? What kind of people and skills would you need to do that on the ground here? And so we went through that process with them, and we came up with ways in this building here where they can use it, and we've made sure that it has some of the requirements that they might have. So when they do land, that they're not just shipping it back to the US to process some of that. They can do it here on site, which would be really valuable for us here in Cornwall and the UK to have that capability. And they've been brilliant at that. They really want us to develop that cluster. And they've announced a few other landing sites around the world as well. And we really hope that we're the first international one for them.
Yeah, that's exciting indeed. I asked them a question in Las Vegas, and so I want to get your side of this as well. I asked them, so what would you think? Because usually companies are very protective of their technology and that sort of. What would you think? I asked them of a Dream Chaser riding on an Ariane 6 and then landing in, belonging to the ESA, landing in Spaceport Cornwall, an entire European launch using your spacecraft. And they said, we would love that to happen. How do you feel about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm just here for space progression of any sort. But to get something like that where it's kind of end to end would be amazing. And I know they've been working with the United Nations, for instance, on kind of looking at opportunities like that to provide kind of launch for some countries that would never have the ability to launch for humanitarian uses. So I know that they're really progressive in the way that they're thinking about their business models going forward, and we just want to be part of it really because we do believe in them as a company and what they do.
Yeah, and I can definitely tell you, and I'm sure you know this already, they believe in you too. At least everybody I've spoken to over there definitely does. One last question. We talk a lot about space. You're talking about how much you believe in developing it. There are many people in Europe, especially from an environmental standpoint, who look upon space flight as damaging to the environment in terms of all the greenhouse gases, that sort of thing. Launcher One in particular uses liquid oxygen, kerosene, etc. So it does produce some greenhouse gases. I mean, how would you react to that? How does space counterbalance the potential damage that the rockets do?
Yeah, it means launching to space is impactful, period. And it always has been. I think the irony in the industry is that we're doing incredible stuff for our planet once we're in space with the applications that we're using, Earth observation, to monitoring our planet, to monitoring, crisis like in Ukraine, for instance. Space is saving lives and it's helping us save our planet. But the way that those products are getting into space is impactful. So that's this irony, and that's what we want to fundamentally change. And that starts with asking the questions, understanding the impact in the first place. A lot of these questions have never been answered. What happens when a first stage drops in the sea? What is the impact on the marine environment? Does it create an artificial reef, or is it really damaging? We just don't know, because nobody, I wouldn't say has cared, but has really looked into it or spent money looking into it. And that's what we're really trying to do here at Spaceport Cornwall is be transparent about what that impact is, so you can find our life cycle analysis of launch with Virgin that shows, the good, the bad, the ugly. Because only then can you understand what you need to do. And so we've done that bit. We want to do more on that. And then we're going to back it up. This isn't about offsetting or mitigating. This is about how do we bring that impact down. Our impact with Virgin Orbit is a lot in the transport of the 747 and aviation fuel. If we can start to crack aviation fuel, that actually is almost like 3/4 of our impacts right there. So focusing on supporting that kind of biofuel usage, and then looking at the fueling on the rocket, then looking at the retrieval of the rocket stages, if again, if it is that impactful, and working with our communities. I think, it's not just about environmental sustainability, it's social sustainability. So how do you engage the public, children, adults, into space, to use space in their daily lives, and to be more efficient at, the ways that they're using, technology or products. So it's kind of this all-encompassing approach that we're trying to do here. We're not trying to greenwash. We're trying to be very open about what it is, and then we want to back it up with integrity and change, and challenge other spaceports to do the same.
It's great to hear that. Thank you very much. Oh, not quite as windy as we were thinking, maybe. Well, obviously, a full scale airfield. And of course, how long has this airport been here?
Since the Cold War. Actually, no, that's a lie. Actually, before that, end of World War II. Yes.
Very long time indeed. So tell me, with Cosmic Girl out there, or how's this all going to work?
Yeah, so if we're following the kind of journey of the satellites and the rocket will then be moved out here and go through these gates behind us. Cosmic Girl will be parked up just on the other side there on the apron. That's where it will be mated. Cosmic Girl will head out onto the taxiway, and depending on wind and weather, she'll probably go down to the right end of the runway and take off beside us here.
And how far out over the Atlantic is it going to go before it drops its payload, or is that dependent on weather and those sorts of factors?
Yeah, it is dependent. We're looking about 300 miles off the coast.
All right, so quite some distance then. So yeah, if you come here to watch a launch, pretty much all you're going to see. And by the way, I've filmed Virgin Orbit launches in the past. Is the plane taking off? I'd say the greatest amount of entertainment to be had is just to see the plane on the runway. It's very impressive. So let me see. Okay, one other question that I had in regards to cadence. I had a chance to talk to Saxavord, and they are talking about 30 launches per year. Now, obviously, these are different, launch providers doing it, but that's a colossal amount of launches out of Shetland. Forgive me, it's a bit of a lengthy question, but Virgin Orbit, of course, they talk about being a fast response kind of launch provider. Now, granted, they only just got to orbit recently, so we can't expect a huge launch cadence immediately. But what are you expecting in the long run out of this facility? How many launches in an ideal world do you want to have coming out of Spaceport Cornwall?
So with Virgin Orbit in the first few years, we're looking at 2 to 3, and we just think that's the most realistic between the market, but also the rockets coming out themselves. As a spaceport, though, when we look at other users in the future, we've put a self limitation of 12 a year for us here at Spaceport Cornwall for environmental reasons, and really that's because it's not all eggs in one basket here. We're not trying to just do launch. We're an airport. We have lots of different activities. This is just one part of our business plan for this site. So it means that we can kind of diversify activity, but it means that we're not putting everything into just trying to force as many launches as possible out of here. I guess, it's really it's quality over quantity for us, and ensuring that we're integrating into the airport, so we're not going to disrupt the passenger services that happen here, the military operations, search and rescue, air ambulance. All that needs to still operate for Cornwall. And so for us, it's just integrating launch into that. And what's realistic for us is yeah, that first 5 years looking at 2 and 3, and then maybe shifting up as Virgin start to pick up their pace. I'd love to have our own rocket factory here, a base 747 here, which is definitely in the plans. So yeah, we might see maybe 8 launches a year with Virgin, and then maybe a few from others in the future as well. But I max about 12, I'd say, in the next probably 10 to 15 years.
Gotcha. So about a dozen. So once again clarify, because I thought I heard you say that it's your ambition to ultimately have a Launcher One factory here in Britain. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd love to. Of course, I would. Yeah, for us at the minute, to support their kind of international growth and responsive launch, that's what they're all about, is to be able to respond quickly to a need, and for us geopolitically, that's really important, where we can turn around and launch very quickly if we need to in the future. So future proofing this site means looking at the future development of the site. Where would we put a 747? Where would we put a rocket factory if we needed it? And we have a lot of space on the site, and it's owned by the local council. So for us, we don't need planning, and we can do things quite quickly. We turned around this hangar in a year. This clean room and this hangar has been done from the minute we broke ground to opening is a year. So we can do things very quickly. And I think for us, just making sure that we have that ability in the future, if there is that need, that we can do it.
Last question. So you said all this. Any notion as to how Sir Richard feels about putting a manufacturing facility here and expanding his operations? Has he given you any clue at all?
Not Richard himself, no, but I think, I do hope that Virgin see what we're able to do in the next few years, and definitely want to work with us more. Probably initially with that base aircraft, but Sir Richard's very always been massively supportive of my team, of myself, of the county of Cornwall. He's really passionate about Cornwall. He has a lot of personal links to what's happened down here, as well as some of the aircraft that have taken off from here, and helped save him when he was doing transatlantic activity. He's always been supportive, and his team at Virgin are just world class. They're amazing humans, and we're so lucky to work with them. We click really well, and we have a great relationship. So.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the viewers to make sure that they know about what Spaceport Cornwall is bringing to the UK and bringing to the world? Just any last, kind of powerful statement about this place.
Yeah, I hope that we're just showing that we're doing it very differently. And while we're focused, of course, on safety and being operational and improving that capability, for us is much more than that. The launch is almost a cherry on top of something that we're trying to, engage with local communities, with local schools, to inspire the next generation, but also be something aspirational after a pandemic, that a small place, rural place like Cornwall can do something like this, that is, going to be on a global platform and a world stage, but actually has something to say, and to challenge as well. So we're so excited, and we can't wait.
I'm very excited as well. I can't wait to come back out here and watch this place in action. So thank you so much for your time today.
Oh no, it's such a pleasure to have you here in person. So thank you.
So, obviously, this episode was more informational than anything else. You saw a lot of empty rooms and not a whole lot of equipment. As a matter of fact, you might find it difficult to believe that anything is going to be happening at this facility in the near future, but that's not the case. This organization is able to move very quickly. As a matter of fact, in less than 10 days, I'm going to be back at Spaceport Cornwall watching them integrate satellites into Launcher 1. And a mere 29 days from now, well, that's when the launch window opens. I'm looking forward to bringing you more content in the upcoming weeks. Also, please like, please subscribe, please check the description for ways to support this content so I can keep bringing it to you. And as always, stay angry about space.